My name is Katie, and I'm a person in long-time recovery. I just wanted to introduce myself tonight and tell you a little bit about my story. Anytime that I share, I always pray ahead of time, and I pray that my message helps someone and that that I'll convey a good message. So I wanted to talk first about what it was like for me growing up. I had a wonderful family. I had two loving parents. We always had the best of everything. I had two wonderful siblings. I was a middle child, and I always had that middle child syndrome. I always felt left out. It was always hard for me to adapt in life. And I lied about everything from a very young age. So if I went grocery shopping and I went to Giant, I would say I went to Wise. So it was very unnecessary lies, and used to drive my parents crazy. But I was always one to isolate, lie, manipulate, even if my intentions were good. When I reached the age of about 16, I started having issues with depression and anxiety. I also had some medical issues growing up, and the anxiety and depression really came to a head. And at the age of 16, I overdosed on Tylenol PM. And really, my parents were shocked because they had no idea I was struggling. And my mom came into my room, and I had laid the bottle on the floor. And I remember being in the hospital and going to a psychiatric unit and being young and just feeling like something was terribly wrong with me. I did have some trauma when I was a child, so I just never really worked through all that. And when I was in high school, I was a good girl. I didn't try any drugs. I had a couple episodes of drinking, and right from the start, I was a blackout drinker. So I had these horrible experiences, and come time to go to college, I was very successful with my grades, and I babysat a lot, and I was very financially responsible. And I went to college. I went to Lock Haven University, and it was really my first time away from home. And so as soon as I got there, right into the drinking, I was very passionate about becoming a teacher, and all those dreams just took a backseat. I was into the party scene, and I drank a lot, and most every time it was blackout drinking. So it was right from the start, it was problem drinking. And so my grades started to suffer. My first 2 semesters, I was on the dean's list, and then next thing you know, I'm failing classes, and I really struggled, and I would drink all week, and then on the weekends, I would drive home. I didn't know how to do laundry. I didn't know how to cook. I was very reliant on my family. And looking back now, I see what a problem that was for me. I didn't know how to take care of myself. And anytime I would have a bad night of drinking, I would just drive home. And I was very afraid of failure when I was younger as well. I remember running track, and if I got a bad start running, I would just run off the track and say that I was nauseous. I was very afraid to succeed and very comfortable with failing. So, of course, in true fashion, I was in my senior year of college, which was actually my 5th year, and 2 classes short, so 6 credits shy of my bachelor's degree, I left college. And I got engaged, and I moved to Georgia. And I was there for about 2 months, and I came home, and that's when my problems really started. And my family started to notice my drinking, so relationships suffered, but I just kept on that path. I became pregnant with my first daughter when I was 25. It was a wonderful time. I mean, although it was an unplanned pregnancy, I was so excited to be a mother. That was always my dream. And I had my daughter, and I was drinking while I was pregnant in the beginning. And I remember thinking, this is not good, but I just kind of like pushed everything down. And, when I became visibly pregnant, I stopped drinking. I had my daughter, Taylor, in 2005. And after I had her, they gave me Percocets. As soon as I had that substance in me, I just felt like I had found my comfort in life. I could be myself. And my habit started out with 1 pill daily. And fast forward a few months, it was very quick progression. I was taking anywhere from 40 to 60 pills. my mother was a nurse, and she had pills at home, so I started stealing her pills. And when she noticed, they tried to intervene, but I really didn't take to it. Next thing you know, I was pregnant again and engaged again. And right after I had my daughter, she was 6 weeks, I had taken a lot of medication, and I went to rehab. And when I came home, I couldn't get my kids back. That was really difficult for me. And instead of using that to get strong, I just used it as an excuse to use. I always played the victim, and, everyone was out to get me, but I never wanted to look inside and see what I could do to help myself. And losing my girls, and then going through the court system for years, starting with supervised visits. And even when I was trying to do the right thing, like I remember wanting to see my daughter so much, not having any money to pay the supervisor and writing a check that I knew would bounce back. And so those behaviors continued where I just didn't know how to cope with life, and I did not reach out for help. I ended up getting pregnant with my third daughter, and I was taking a lot of pills. So I ended up on methadone when I was pregnant with Bella, and I went into treatment. That's where I was put on methadone. And after I had her, I was doing well for a while. I mean, I was going to meetings, but I wasn't engaging and not doing the program the way it's meant to be. And I had my daughter Bella, and I was on methadone, and to watch her be born, and she was addicted to it, and she went through severe withdrawals, and she was in the NICU, and I stayed strong for a few days. And then once again, I felt sorry for myself, and I went to a bar and then started with pills. And I remember, it's super painful to talk about, but I remember sitting in the NICU. They only had a rocking chair, and I remember nodding off holding my daughter. And that's when my descent into just feeling worthless, useless, and like, everyone would be better off without me. And so my addiction spiraled, and I started, doctor jumping, going to ERs, and I exhausted all my options. A lot of doctors just blacklisted me. So I started writing my own prescriptions and altering prescriptions, and I eventually got into some legal trouble. I was arrested for forgery, and I remember going to jail for the first time, and I was terrified, and I could not believe that my life came to that. And I was given the wonderful opportunity to go on Lackawanna County Treatment Court. And that was just the biggest blessing in my life, which I'll talk about. But in the beginning, I was very resistant to it. I wanted to get better, but I felt like I just was never going to get better. So it felt pretty difficult for me. My probation officer, right from the start, my case manager, they were very tough on me, but they were, my mom at this point had become very ill. So they were almost like motherly to me. And, my lies didn't really fly with them, but I went through a lot of ups and downs in treatment court, a lot of stints in jail. I had been to about 25 rehabs and psychiatric units in all the course of my substance use. And so, I was very familiar with that life, and I always completed the program successfully. But, the minute that I stepped out of that facility, I just went right back to old behaviors. On treatment court, as I said, I struggled, and they believed in me, though. They didn't give up on me. I should have been terminated and sent upstate to serve my full sentence, because I just, I kept breaking the rules, and I kept relapsing. I remember I went to a family education meeting, and they had to escort me out of it, and they took me to jail from there. And that was just one of many instances that I ended up in prison. And prison stopped scaring me. I became used to it. I became used to being institutionalized, used to messing up. I didn't believe that I was worthy to succeed. So with all the custody battles, it became apparent that I was not going to get better. And so my children's fathers got lawyers, which they had lawyers, but they drew up paperwork to force me into doing a closed adoption for my daughters. And that was the one thing that I knew I couldn't handle. I didn't think I would survive that. I mean, I couldn't cope with anything. So something of that magnitude, it just felt impossible to me. And I was on house arrest at this point, and I had a meeting, like a pre-meeting before this adoption hearing, and I decided to take my life. And I should say that my parents had been called multiple times, the middle of the night or when they were in Florida. They were told to drive home, that I wasn't going to make it. I mean, I had so many scares with death, but this time I really wanted to end. I didn't want to feel the pain anymore, because I used to live and live to use. I did nothing else but search for chemicals to put in my body. I couldn't function. I thought everyone would be better off without me. And it scares me because I remember being in my body that day, but that was not me mentally. I was a very sick person who suffered from substance use and the inability to live life. And it's a lot to think about, but I took every pill, and I had every pill that I had knocked over something in the kitchen. So Nicole, who was my probation officer, she came to do a welfare check because she was notified I didn't make the appointment, and she saw things disturbed, and she opened the door. And I remember the doctor saying that if she didn't find me, I would have been dead. And how terrible would that be? Especially looking at my life today. I thank God for her and for just being, God sending help to me. And I ended up being in the hospital intensive care, and then down to a regular medical floor. I went to a psychiatric unit. This was on March 12th of 2013 that this happened. And from a psychiatric unit, I went back to jail because I had to go to jail, and they had to decide what to do with me. And at this point, my insurance refused to pay for any more treatments. They said, I was basically untreatable, and I didn't want to fight it. I said, you know what, I'm tired. I can't do this. I've proven that I can't do it. And Nicole and the team from treatment court, and of course my family, they all fought for me, and they appealed the insurance company, and they won. So I couldn't believe it. And I still wasn't fully convinced that I had any will left to live. But I got to see my daughter before I went to treatment, and my youngest daughter that I still had. Well, my dad raised her, and seeing her made me realize that I did have something to live for. And I was sent to a treatment center, and that will be my last treatment center I was at. And while I was there on May 15th, I had to go to the adoption hearing for my daughters. I had to face it, and we did an open adoption, thank God, and it was more like a contract. And if I, ever used again, the contract would be void, and it would be a closed adoption. That day was the most painful day of my life. I remember just curling up in a ball on the way home. I still have nightmares about that day, and it wasn't even home. I was going back to a treatment facility, but that was the best place, safest place for me. And again, God came through for me because I was kept there a little bit longer than I should have. And then I went to a halfway house in Harrisburg, and I got a job, and I was, it was just amazing. I got to work for a clinic, and I started to have a little bit of hope. I still, had my doubts and reservations, but I had hope. And I met someone who would become my sponsor in a 12-step program, and she was just amazing and supportive. And for the first time in my life, I actually did what was suggested of me. I started working a program. I opened up to people when I had a problem. I would talk about it. At this point, my mother became very ill, and my daughter came to live with me in Harrisburg. And so I went from, not really knowing how to be a mother, loving my children, but not knowing how to take care of them, to having her and working and all the struggles that come with that. And I didn't have a vehicle. So using public transportation, finding a babysitter, it was all stressful, but I did it, and I felt so good about it. And there was a lot of days I didn't eat because I couldn't afford, but I fed my daughter, and I went through struggles that made me so grateful for everything. When I finally did get a vehicle, I was just so thankful. And I still, I don't take things for granted anymore, because I was, I had nothing. I had spent my substance use in homeless shelters, in hotels, in hospitals. I had so many awful, terrible things. And I was the lowest of the low. I would hang out in day shelters, and I had nothing. I had nothing but the clothes on my back. And it was always people and connections that carried me through, because I remember being terrified staying at a homeless shelter for a point in time. And, there was people who would take me under their wing. And I always said, the connections are what got me through every phase of my life. My attorney was through the Women's Resource Center, and she was amazing, and she was supportive, and she still is. We still keep in contact. And the people from treatment court, and then, of course, the support group and the friends that I made within my 12-step program, they're what really carried me through. And after a while, I was able to relocate back to Scranton. And I had to, I came back because my mom was severely ill at this point. And I had to get on my own, because living with my parents was not ideal for me, because I was able to be taken care of. And, my father was an enabler. He loved me very much, but I was never going to really grow up and learn what life was about unless I got on my own. So until I found an apartment, my daughter and I had to stay in a women's shelter. And that was hard, because I'm thinking, I'm clean and I'm staying, I'm back to where I started. So that moment was frustrating. But I had learned not to stay in the problem and to get into the solution. The solution was finding an apartment. So I aggressively found one. And that was my first apartment. And I'll tell you, it felt pretty darn good. And at this point, I had stayed away from relationships for a while. And I really needed to do that, because I get addicted to everything. I have issues with gambling and shopping and eating and relationships. I just have that personality that I want more and more and more, and more is never enough for me. So I went a lengthy time, and in a 12-step program, I met the person who's now my husband, and we had a nice, healthy relationship that it really enhanced my life. And my daughter didn't have a father figure in her life. And, so he slowly became a role model to her, and watching them grow, it was just amazing. And my mother passed away, but she did get to meet Derek, who's now my husband. And that was amazing for me, because it was wonderful for her to see me get my life together for the first time. And I think she knew that he was someone special. And, she held his hand and said, "Take care of my girls." And he has. And I'm here to tell you that almost 8 years down the line, I can't even express the gratitude that I feel, the way my life has changed in ways that I could never imagine. My daughters today, my older daughters that, I am no longer their legal parent, but the relationships with them are amazing. And it took time, and it took working through a lot of pain. But I get to see them so frequently. We have a wonderful relationship, and their dads and now their wives, we have a level of respect. We have friendships, and it's amazing. I never thought, sitting in that courtroom, being 2 months sober, that I would get to a point where I have all the blessings that I have. I got to spend Christmas with my oldest daughter, and that was the first time in a long time. And my husband and I, we went through a lot of pain. We were trying to have a baby, and, we had a couple losses, and, but I had support going through it. So I was able to work through it. And then we had a rainbow baby in July of this year. And it feels so amazing to have this family, and to watch my daughters be together. It's just, it's beyond. We have a home that we own. I have a car that is my name. So all these things are amazing, but I couldn't have done it without God and the people in my life. And for me, a 12-step program, and just the Lackawanna County Treatment Court, they definitely saved my life. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And my probation officer that I talk about so much, because I really feel she was instrumental in my recovery. We still stay in touch, and she celebrates my victories, and it's amazing. And I just have a total different perspective change. I mentioned before, I just have so much gratitude for things, and I appreciate every moment in life, because I have nightmares sometimes, and I think they're God's way of sending me sending me these examples of how life was. I wake up in a cold sweat and I'm just like looking around at my home, and, my children are in bed down the hall, and I'm like, oh my gosh, those moments of panhandling in a grocery store parking lot, being so cold, and, being in handcuffs, and all the traumatic things that I went through. I mean, and I was not mentally clear for a while. I'd say a few years. I mean, I had to change every aspect of who I was and the way that I thought. And I still have a thinking problem. I'm terminally unique. I am a narcissist with an inferiority complex because everything is always me, 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 but yet I'm so insecure. So those are things I have to work on constantly. And I just rely on other people to guide me. Every day is a new start. And also almost 2 years ago, in June it will be, I became a certified recovery specialist. And my biggest goal in life is to help others. I really try to help other moms to understand, what addiction does to children, because now that my daughters are 15, 12, 11, and then I have a 6-month-old, but we have conversations, and age-appropriate conversations. And it's really important to understand how I impacted their lives, and to take responsibility for that, and to have these conversations, and to apologize for the bad decisions I made. And I'm really thankful that Harper, my youngest, doesn't have to see me in my addiction, God willing. And my daughter Bella, she is 11 now, but she doesn't remember. She doesn't remember anything. So it's amazing. And she sees alcohol commercials, and she'll be like, ugh, and she's proud of me, and she understands how hard I work. And my husband as well is in recovery, so she understands, and she grew up going to meetings, and just it's amazing. So being a certified recovery specialist, it's just like life has come full circle, because you have to give it away. You can't just keep it. And I try to make myself available to help, and then to do that on a professional level, and to feel accomplished, and to know that that I'm part of helping someone's journey. It's truly just like a miracle. And I worked at the Recovery Bank in Scranton. I'm out on leave from having my daughter right now, but it's an amazing peer-driven resource center, and we had some amazing programs. I was a CRS and program coordinator, and I came in after it was opened, and they really do some amazing things, and I work with some wonderful people, and it's just an atmosphere of recovery that it celebrates all pathways. So there's all different types of meetings and experiences. And last year we had a wonderful Super Bowl party, and it's nice to be able to have fun and meet people that are like you. I know I am a nervous Nan. I have social anxiety, and I still get nervous around people that I even know, but I know how hard it is to walk into a meeting or sitting down with the CRS. I know how hard it is. It's, you get a pit in your stomach, and you're basically going to be opening up and telling that person all about your life. And I know also for me about, there's so many misconceptions about substance use. And when I first went, my first treatment, I really was nowhere near being honest, open-minded and willing. But I remember looking around and saying, I'm not like these people. I take prescribed medication. I'm not like everyone else here. And if you fast forward to my last treatment, I was thinking, no one here knows how bad my life is, and no one here knows that I can't be helped. So it's puts it in a lot of perspective how life spiraled out of control. And I protect the things that I worked hard for. I always, if I go to doctors now, I always say right away, I'm in recovery, and I make it be known to everyone, because I am proud of it. I worked hard to get here. I had blood, sweat, and tears, and I will not chance it for anything. And I've had situations where one doctor, I was having a dental procedure, and I had told him like I always do. And he mailed me a prescription before the procedure for a substance. And I just ripped it up and shredded it. And I don't like to put myself in those situations, which is why I work so hard to make it be known, to share it loud and proud, to be a voice for others. And I am grateful. I am just beyond. And even just sharing tonight, it makes me so thankful for the life that I've built. And I'm sure there's so much more I could say, but that was long and short of it. And it's just, you can go through anything and you can get through it with a good attitude and working the program, taking suggestions. I lost my mom, I lost my daughters, I lost some pregnancies, but I just kept going. And my worst day in recovery is nothing like my best day in my substance use. It's not even a comparison. And good times and bad times both come and go, but I'm grounded and I'm confident in who I am today. And so I take the good and the bad and I just keep going along, and life is beautiful and it gets better and better.